For entrepreneurs, when they're speaking to investors like CIC, they often ask, what is IP due diligence? And what are investors looking for IP due diligence? Can you help paint a picture for an entrepreneur of what that process looks like, how you help them along the journey, and sort of what good should be in their minds?
Sure. First of all, as a general point, I think that investors on the whole are becoming much more IP savvy. They're realizing that it's really important, especially on exit. So I say to entrepreneurs, if you want to attract the really good investors, if you want to attract the CICs who are IP savvy and who think about IP strategically, then you need to set yourself up for attracting those investors. And how do you do that? So it's about thinking very early about your IP, getting a good IP strategy in place, and it's about being due diligence. I talk about this term, due diligence ready. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you have a call from your parents that they're going to call round in 24 hours, then all of a sudden it's a big panic. Okay, I've got 24 hours to clean the house and it's an absolute mess. And I say to people, have your house clean and ready for visitors all the time. So what, especially since I'm advising investors and entrepreneurs, I know the questions that they're going to ask, and I know what they're going to want to see. So quite often they will say they will want access to the IP data room, for example, or want some information about your IP. That is stuff that you can be preparing as you go. So you can have a data room populated, and especially the better investors, they're not just going to ask us to see a list of your IP anymore and tick the box going, yes, they have some. They're actually going to want to see that it's not just what IP do you have, it's explain your intellectual property strategy to me. Explain what is your IP strategy and how does it fit in with your business plan. So it's more than just an Excel spreadsheet of patents. It's I do an exercise with entrepreneurs that I think is really useful, which is mapping the IP to the products. So I'll say investors they're not investing in your IP in a vacuum. They're investing in the whole company and a suite of products, for example. And so think of the product and think of the commercial goal at the center of a mind map, and think how your IP fits around that. And I get them to do that. Sit down, draw it out. What are your commercial products and how does all your IP fit around that? What trade secrets do you have? What patents do you have? What trademarks do you have? And that visual exercise helps you see, first of all, you identify gaps. You'll have perhaps one of your products with nothing around it. What are you going to do about that? And it will also help you spot the intellectual property that may be redundant. I've done due diligence. I remember doing due diligence on one company, and they'd been going for about 10 years. They were spending about £250,000 on their IP, and the investor wanted me to have a look at it. And they weren't the tick box investors. They were like, no, really have a look. Is this IP adding value? And a lot of it wasn't. So I was able to we were able to sort that out. But my recommendation to the investor was, yes, they've got some intellectual property, but most of your investment's going to be paying for an intellectual property portfolio that isn't really doing what it's meant to be doing. So it's a living thing, intellectual property strategy. Don't just set it up at the beginning and forget about it, because then you could be spending £250,000 a year and have IP that's not adding value to the business.